Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager 24, Episode 18. I've made a big decision. I've realized that with the degradation, with the effectiveness down on our facilities that were bare minimum already, we're making little to no progress, and I'm dumping loads of money right now into multiple upgrades to get a competitive car so we can get back to where we were during last season, where with quality drivers and an improved pit crew and a somewhat competitive car, we were getting consistent results in that ninth, 10th range and, kind of cruising along our way. And then we hit that January 1st and had that big debt situation that lasted, for 12 hours. That's still hurting us, and kind of freaked out. I'm going to have to bite the bullet here for the first half of this season, and instead of focusing heavily on upgrades, though I do have 3 on the way and coming, I'm gonna do this. The facilities need to come first right now. In particular, these car development facilities that are in really, really sad shape. Beginning with the design center. The design center is a must upgrade. It's going to get us extra engineers, for one thing, so we can do a couple projects, but it's going to take us from 0.6% up to 2% for the components, but it's 8 million. We only have 5.5 right now, so we are going to have to wait a little bit. The wind tunnel, it's still at 80% right now, so it's 10 million to upgrade. The simulator, look, we are getting literally nothing out of the simulator at this moment, and it's 10 million to upgrade. The upgrade, though, you look at it, it's actually not that big, right? We're seeing a number of 17, we're seeing a number of 1. However, that's 0.010 versus 0.017. So it's an upgrade, certainly, but it's not as serious an upgrade as one would think, and it's still operating at 80% effectiveness for level 1, as is this. But that design center at 60%, we're losing 0.4 of a point already. Instead of just recovering that 0.4 of a point, it makes much more sense to gain 1.4% in everything and some extra engineers to get through projects a little faster. So we're going to be pushing along to make some money to get to that 8 million, to get that upgrade on the go, so that the upgrades that we are making, the projects, actually get something in return. Because right now the gains are next to nothing, and it's really not catching us up to everybody else. I'm now 1 day away from our first sponsor period coming to an end, and we've got a huge payment coming for that. And in this 1 day prior, we've turned into the month of April, which has given us our monthly payment. We're at 8.4 million. I'm going to get that facility upgrade on the go here in just a second, but let's look at our driver development update. Braking for Vinther, +1 smoothness and adaptability. As for Otokoven, +1 to cornering and +2 to braking, getting faster and faster all the time. Also +1 to reactions and +1 to accuracy. That is an incredible spread. 4 of those points are directly into pace. Otokoven's going to get more out of the car now than before, and we're going to really start being able to push those back markers in the driver comparisons. She's going to get more out of the car than they will. We just need to get a competitive car, and she'll consistently beat those guys. So the design center upgrade will take 63 days, so we'll get it done in just 2 months. The monthly upkeep will go higher, but not significantly. We're down to 400,000, but we're 1 day away from our sponsor plan review. So our engagement cash, 5.5 million, a lot more than what we were getting last year. Plus we have a mandatory activity for the fashion show appearance, up 8.5 million alone. Huge for us. Now the 3 designs that we were pushing, all finishing today as well. So even though the gains are minimal, I still want to get them on the car. I really do. We're gonna take it. Unless it had been counted as part of our lump sum at the beginning of the year, the $8 million payment didn't come through. We only got the $5 million for the sponsorship, and I immediately poured $2 million of that into the first few upgraded parts. We're not going to manufacture that much. For one thing, I plan on quickly moving on to the next component. And two, I'm going to just take that chance, take that risk that we're going to kind of use that bare minimum to stretch our money and use older parts when necessary to kind of keep things going along. So we're not going to manufacture 6, 8, 10 parts for something and have half a dozen of them left over when we move on to the next part. We will use up some of our older components as the season goes on and do things a little sparingly. We definitely have better finances this year than last year, but we still got to be careful on how we spend those resources. And right now, the facilities matter to me a lot, as opposed to having that one extra part when we need it. Especially when the gap between one component and the next component, at least for now, is quite minimal. So those gains certainly welcome, but not that important to us to dump millions and millions into it. Anyway, we have a rain-soaked final almost half of the Japanese Grand Prix here in Suzuka, so we'll see how the team does. Car setup was not great, but that's because I bypassed it. Now that they have fixed that, I really do need to take the time to go in and update that car setup session by session. I could easily get it into that 90 percentile, and it would definitely have the driver confidence that little bit higher and give them the actual bonuses, but they have that individual quality that makes me go, they don't need it so much, they'll be okay. This series just seems to be locked in on Red Bull. You just move from one Red Bull driver to the next, and the same circumstances. It's one Red Bull at the front. It's one Red Bull with a weak driver struggling behind. And so then it's everybody fighting for the podium, which that's a couple for Mercedes now after getting, I don't know, one of all last year, maybe, if that. Porsche for RB getting the one to break the mold and get there amongst the regular top 10. And we are 15th. Venter, pretty good race, just one lap down. Not too far off the pace, but where is Odekoven? Odekoven is 18th. That'll work. That'll get us the bonuses that we needed, and we beat both Alpines today. We beat both Kick Saubers today. That's a ninth place finish for us. 4 DNFs is obviously really good for us. Kevin Magnussen didn't even make it to the checkered flag once. He was out on the first lap. And our regulation vote for this year is major technical changes. This is huge for us as we're lagging so far behind and everybody else is going to take a massive hit. Oh my goodness, we're looking at a total rework of the chassis with either 70 or 65%, with alternatively others getting a 5% additional. I think having the suspension, underfloor, side pods, rear wing, and front wing an extra 5% to shave off 5% from the chassis for us, right? That's 5 parts gaining 5 with 1 losing 5, which means 4 parts is the offset, right? It's an additional 5% times 4 components. For me, for our team, where we're at, the bigger the loss, the more we gain comparatively to everybody else, because the loss is going to impact them more than it will us as we're further down the grid. So I'm going to go with the major chassis change, which is going to impact everything else by a little bit more, versus the complete chassis overhaul. I mean, the complete chassis overhaul sounds nice in title, but that's just the chassis, and then impacting everything else less so. I like the more so. Either way, this is fantastic news for us competitively down the stretch, and it's going to turn this year into a big research project. We're going to be are we going to be doing any more upgrades on the car? Maybe not. Maybe not. Regulation vote should be coming up here in just a moment, but Watanabe is a 76 overall. Now our technical chief has leveled up. Okay, here we go. Research period begins because major changes coming. And we're going to want to start like damn near right away. Here we go. Regulation vote. You have to kind of see what we voted for to see with the comparison. Ferrari is against. It's already 3-1 in one of the directions. 3-2, 5-2, 5-4. It's very close with 2 to go, and I still don't know which way it's leaning. 6-5. 6-5 for the major chassis. So it is going to go the lighter end. It's the chassis taking a 70% hit, and all other components taking a 50% hit. The grid is going to back up massively. I love this, regardless that the vote went against us and it didn't go the way that would make it even better, even stronger, 55% across the board. But yeah, 50% is still a ton. I mean, that's half reduction of all expertise. That is going to be massive. And yeah, I don't think we're going to put any more upgrades on the car. We're going to take a slow car and just hope that the quality of our drivers will get us enough results in that 9th, 10th range to keep our job, fingers crossed, and go all in on next season. At least mostly in on next season. We might rattle off like one upgrade per period, but because we're going to have all those extra engineers, because apparently you don't gain extra expertise, you dilute the pool. You're supposed to only have one engineer per research project, which is just silly. What a silly thing, and it's not a bug, it's done on purpose. But makes no sense. But anyway, if that's the case, we're going to maximize the research projects simultaneously throughout the season with one engineer. And then we'll take all of our additional engineers and do one upgrade at a time, because that will still carry over half, besides the chassis, half of the work that we do will carry over into next season at least. And with all those extra engineers, it gives them something to do. Or I just cut back on engineers and save a little money and just go like, how many projects can I do at once? I could do 4. Right now I could do 4. So 4 engineers is all I would need. Just 4 research projects constantly throughout the season might be the way to go. Save the money on the engineers. Never mind this year's car. Yeah, sounds like a good plan to me. We'll save a lot of money that way. Research projects still aren't going to be cheap at all, but without the manufacturing side of it, we just have to keep up on what we have for this year. Round 5, Chinese Grand Prix. Sainz wins again. Piastri, Russell, Bottas, Tsunoda are the top 5. Giovinazzi getting in there. Porsche again scoring points. Haas, Albon gets a point. Ferrari seem to be well off the pace right now, just 8th place, though Charles Leclerc did start 6 grid positions higher. Williams and RB are consistently competitive. They definitely have a faster car. Alpine and Kick-Sauber both beating us. Neither one of our drivers showing up in the top 16. And like Leclerc, Hamilton also had difficulty in this race. Both of them went backwards. So Ferrari seemed to be a bit off the pace. 17 drivers and still no sign of either of our teammates. Oedekoven gets 19th. Winter finishes last. Appears not to be a DNF, at least. I'll take that. That's the last place for the team. Only Oedekoven earning the 450k bonus for us. So definitely a disappointing race. I mean, we only managed to beat 2 drivers, period. Apparently the car is that bad because Oedekoven ends up leveling up after the conclusion of the race, now in 86 overall. Another month gone by just like that, and for the first time, Oedekoven's always edged ahead as the higher potential driver, but for the first time, Oedekoven is now 2 points ahead of Winter. I know Winter's going to turn in 85 anytime, but the gap, the separation between them seems to be permanent now, instead of Winter always trying to catch up and reach the level of Oedekoven. Anyway, for Winter, we got a +1 to defending and accuracy. For Oedekoven, another pace improvement with cornering, overtaking in the 89, and reactions in 87. So 2 points again in that department, in the pace department. Like I said, right now the priority is those facilities. We've got to get these research projects going, and we will very soon. But we need to be able to back it up with actual improvements on the car, even if it's on the low side. The next to nothing isn't going to do us any good. There's got to be substance, and so we're going to build the car part test center. It's only $4.5 million. Only takes 19 days. We're going to get 20 newtons of downforce bonus. We're going to get engine cooling 2%, which we're really bad off for. Drag reduction of 1% bonus, DRS delta 1% bonus, 2% for tire preservation. So the two areas where we're really struggling, it's going to help us out. It's a Mercedes win for Yuki Tsunoda, not even for Russell. We scored a point. Oda Koven has finished 10th. After starting in 20th. What the hell just happened? My expectations, I was prepared to start talking about this, and then I was all surprised. Tsunoda wins, and then wait, that's us. Show it up on the first page before you scroll down. Perez is nowhere to be seen, so I'm thinking Perez probably DNF to that. That's what opened the door for like everybody else to be able to do something. 2 Williams also in the points. That's a podium for Lando Norris. Incredible race here in Miami. So my expectations were crazy low for a couple of reasons. In fact, I full on was like heart and mouth when I was simulating the sprint. Reason being for that part is I am down to 0 spare front wings for the second variation of the front wing. We have plenty of the first iteration of that, but if you run into a problem in the middle, I suppose we could have switched to the second one. I wasn't thinking about that at the time, without penalty, because you'd be out of Parc Fermé. In years past, you would have been in Parc Fermé, and we would have had to emergency manufacture. We don't have money to emergency manufacture a front wing right now. We spent it all on the facility upgrade and manufacturing the side pods that finished a couple of weeks ago, but we can only manufacture 2 at a time, and I'm really stretching thin when it comes to that. Anyway, 6 races into the season, this is that quarter mark. This is the mark where post-race, I could put a new engine, I can put a new gearbox in both cars. Both cars, even though we have had some DNFs, both cars have managed to make all of their components last through this first phase of the season. So now we can move on to the second phase of the season. We're going to have brand new components except the electronics, which need to wait until the midway point, as you only get 2 for the year. So they've got another 6 races to go on the electronics, but I expected us to be more competitive next race once we have the new engine, the new gearbox within the car. So Oda Koven getting 10th place, our first ever points finish for the team. Completely unexpected, totally out of left field. Did not expect this. In fact, the way the car was looking, I was not expecting this season. Really was not. But we do have a special driver in Catherine Oda Koven, and what a phenomenal result. I mean, we beat the RBs, we beat the Kick Saubers. Sainz did finish, but so far back. Leclerc, so far back. Piastri, so far back. You figure there had to have been an incident amongst them, Bottas included. Venter was 21st, 2 laps down. Her teammate, not far from being a lap down. I mean, like, not that far off, right? We're 3 seconds ahead of Pourchaire, who's a second ahead of Gasly, who's half a second ahead of Magnussen, and then Lawson's a lap down. And I would imagine just from half a minute for Tsunoda and the Mercedes, we were just talking about how Mercedes has had like 1 podium in quite a while, and how shocking it was. And then we come around and here's Tsunoda on top by half a minute with another 10 seconds to Norris. And then, a good 10-second gap to Russell and 16 to Ricciardo. So this has got to be, we're talking about a 1.5 lap. 1.5. There's half of that minute right there. That's a third of a lap down. ish. I mean, a few seconds off, right? Over a third of a lap down. So we're already talking about just about a lap down by this point by Russell. And there's another 15 seconds. Like, Oedekoven is like, this whole group is literally just ahead of Tsunoda, just ahead of going a lap down. We're a lap down every freaking race. So not only do we get on the lead lap, but we finish in the points. The strategy? I mean, was this a strategy thing? Was it a pace thing? Oedekoven, a 131.8. Is this we went to the softs at the right time? I mean, you got a few other 131. Yeah, we're not that quick. Not like a 130 flat or anything. We weren't so much faster than everybody around. I don't know how I don't know how it happened. I'm so curious though. Especially, I mean, Winter is 21st. Now there's a gap between the two drivers. Also, the new components that we have, the underfloors on both cars now. The chassis. Oedekoven has the new chassis. Winter does not. Neither of them has the new side pods. And again, all three of those components are only minor upgrades. Still had us at the back of the grid. So, masterclass from Oedekoven. Vesti, the only DNF. So it's not like a bunch of cars DNF'd. But it's very clear that there's a good 4 cars that had problems. We shouldn't have been this high. We should be about, 4 spots lower. 14th. That's something we did last season on a pretty regular basis towards the end of the season. We got really lucky today, but still, I mean, we beat both RBs who have been consistently in the points and crushing us, and, we're third of a second faster consistently, but Ricardo was also slow. And that was an Alpine. Alpine scoring 2 points. Did we even move up? Well, I know we get ahead of Kicksauber, right? Oedekoven up to 17th, securing that 1 point. Yeah, Kicksauber has no points. That's the only team now that has no points. So we only moved up to 10th place. Whoa. Alpine grabs 2 points out of nowhere. Haas grabs 4 points out of nowhere. So a lot of teams benefited from what one would assume is a collision, and 4 of the favorites going to the back of the grid as a result and being off the pace, carrying damage, not DNFing, but carrying enough damage that they were just out of it. And we were not the only ones to benefit from it, but we benefited nonetheless and finished ahead of a bunch of drivers that we haven't been consistently finishing ahead of this season in the one race where we really shouldn't have been doing that because the engine and the gearbox were pretty damn worn down. Wow. Okay. Awesome. We got a point. We got our first point. First mistake in a while, loosening the tires for Winter brought her down to a 4.7 for her first stop. She had a decent 2.6 on the second. We did get a solid 2.4. We never had a 2.4 last season. We've had at least 4 of them this year now, but I don't know if any of them were that well, yeah. That's 0.2 off of our best. We've had a 2.2. We've had a 2.2. Wow. But 2 solid pit stops, right? One is just a hair below our average. We're about a 2.6 flat. 2.6 flat, like a 2.58, I think is where I'm at right now, actually, on the pit stop average. So that was a little slow, but barely. I mean, well under a 1/10 of a second. This is about a 1/10 of a second fast, and apparently we've done quite a bit faster than that. I knew Winter wouldn't be far behind, but I do find it odd. Thematically, you could think of this, the leveling up as being something happening mentally in terms of development, right? Everything comes through practice, but results tend to not just feed ego, but they feed things like confidence, the alter portion to ego, and you get more confident with your ability to turn in, to hit the apex, and to be able to throttle out without losing the rear end, without getting the oversteer. So you would think a 10th place for Otakoven. It would be this race where Otakoven goes and levels up. Not Vinter, who was 21st, with her teammate in 10th, going, gosh, she's 2 laps ahead of me and way up the road and got a point, and I didn't, and I finished behind everybody. But Vinter levels up this race. Thematically, it doesn't fit, does it? Despite the result, the board confidence is still medium for the time being. They're still disappointed about failing the objectives for last year. They're still disappointed about our 12 hours in debt on January 1st. That's going to wear away in a couple of months, and then suddenly they'll be happy again in those regards. The season objective, we've pushed up to 10th place instead of 9th. It's still considered below target, but not as bad. So we're definitely looking a little bit better. Race performance, this is going to be a harder one to maintain. We're absolutely delighted by the performance we just had, and that's going to go a long ways to keep us from having our board confidence really drop off, because you can see that 4 out of the last 6 races have been failures. 4 out of the last 6 have seen us in last place. We've had a 9th, and we've had whatever this was, 7th, 6th, a quite positive result, right, as a team. But the end of last season was Yaz Island, right? We're 6 races in, and 4 of 6 have been failures. It's gonna be difficult to consistently get enough results, and I don't know if we can count on more of these shockers where we sneak in and grab a point. I highly doubt that we're going to score another point this season. That was probably it, one and done, especially as I'm turning that focus into next year's car. Speaking of turning that focus into next year's car, I'm going to end this episode here. I know we've not gone that far, but a lot has happened in this period of time as we've hit this quarterway point of this season. I've not been able to do any upgrades yet. Research projects, that is. Nothing. Nada. Zip. We did the facility. We are stuck in this loop of manufacturing so that we have the components to go race with. The components are falling apart. We're at that phase where that first round of components are all degrading, and we only started with 4 or 5 of everything, and suddenly you have the second set of each kind of gone, and so we're squeezing our money. We're sitting on just 800,000 right now, and I know it's been at least 4 weeks since the sponsor period went by, but so there's got to be at least a couple more until we're going to collect that 5 million or so in cash, and otherwise we're getting 450 or maybe 900k a race. This last race we scored a point, and Vinter finished 21st and didn't collect the 450k for us from the sponsors. And we only got the 450k because we set our target at 20th for each car. So we're in a weird state where we're consistently losing some of the cash we could be getting, and we are kind of spending right in line. The little things that are coming along have allowed us to have 2 facility upgrades, so it's not all bad. But I'm just in that tricky little position of trying to maintain that positive balance and not get ourselves in trouble at any stage, and we're involved in a little bit of a close call at the moment. Once we can get that sorted out, once the finances are on track, we're going to start pumping out those research projects. I think just with the tricky situation I find myself in right now, I may take something like the underfloor and go 100% all hours dumped into it. But of course we have those refurbishment things happening right now, so the upgrade, the research will be kind of ineffective for a little bit. Maybe I need to check my calendar closely and see when these little projects are going to be done and when the ATR period ends, and maybe I need to squeeze it in once one or both of them are done before we enter the next ATR period and just go all in on one research project with a little more of a boost added to it so we can get the most out of it, and then start focusing on the next. So some timely exchanges are going to be necessary going forward if we're going to have some success as we toe the line on having any money at all. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.